Today, we're here with Keidi, Chef Keidi Awadu, and this man can do 5,000 push-ups in a day. I'm of course exaggerating, but he's really impressive. His regiment for exercise, and he's also a magnificent chef. And that's what he's going to be talking to us. He's going to be talking about Ital Vitals, and what that is. That's a Rasta term, and it just means healthy food. And so, without any further ado, let's welcome our friend Chef Keidi Awadu.
All right, what a beautiful, beautiful introduction. I will do my absolute best to live up to all of these beautiful accolades that you share about your brother. I am because we are.
Yes.
I am Wose. We are Wose. We are one. We are fingers on the same hand.
Yes.
Cooperative, collaborative, and pointed in the direction toward our global African sovereign and sustainable development. This morning I woke up, I looked in the mirror, Brother Imhotep, and an African was looking back at me, and I said, it's going to be a good day.
It's going to be a good day. Yes, bro. Yes.
So we're going to go right into it. First, I want to give you an introduction to what I do that gives me such a pleasure, such a joy, keeps me rejuvenated and revitalized. And bear with me, if you look behind me right now, I have 8 days to pack up 12 rooms, a garage, and a garden.
Oh my.
And I'm going to be relocating. It's quite a challenge, but as many of us know, and we know this in our heart, change is good.
Do you have help? Do you have help? It's not
yeah, I'm kind of beyond help, but no, I do have people who step forward. People who step forward and say, hey, brother, do you need me to participate? And I have a tendency to say yes to them. So I get by with a little help from my friends.
Yes.
And you are my friends today. I hope you all will help me because I can spend a lot of money when I'm moving. So buying books is definitely, you will be helping. Let's get to that though. I want to share a screen. Do I have permission?
Yes, sir. Yes,
okay, sir. We're going to share a screen. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at the little help from my friends with which I do get by. So you should be able to see my screen. Do you see my beautiful friends and family there?
Yes, indeed. Yes.
This was this past Saturday at my home. I have been hosting for probably going on 8 years. It's called the First Saturday Feast. I put out the invitation to the vegan community, to the African community, come on over to my house and let's dine. Let's dine on nature's most perfect medicine. As you know, you've heard me say, and I hope you all get in the habit of saying, food is nature's most perfect medicine, to which I've added, and medicine ain't never tasted like this before. So just a little brief photo gallery of the people who came by and what we enjoyed. Oh, I also taking some more photographs. I'm endorsing products for people around the world now, and I really appreciate, love that. But here's what we did. We put together a feast. And I spent about 2.5 days first working with the dehydrated foods and then working in my kitchen. And I put together 30.
What's in the pot?
The pot is a vegetable stew with okra in it. And it's got black beans in it, it's lentils, and just a real hearty vegetable stew. Wow. And I love my stews. We put 36 dishes on the table for this feast, probably about 10 appetizers and such, a number of different beverages. And here you see, this is the moment before we dive in and everyone gets a chance to fill up their plate. And what does a dived in plate look like? Well, we also have our moment, our photo session moment. And this is what my plate looks like. One plate is dedicated just to the appetizers and hors d'oeuvres. And then of course the main plate. And because I'm the photo artist also, I try and decorate my plate so everyone can take a close-up photo And so all their friends and family can say, ooh, ah, I wish I was there with you. And I say, I wish you were here with us as
Yeah,
well.
me too. I wish I was there. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. So this is what we do. We call this Las Vegas Living Superfood Feast. It's the first Saturday of the month. I've been doing this for a number of years. I'm going to be pausing this as we're moving to a more public location. We're going to be doing this at a library and filming it for an upcoming TV chef series that we're putting together beginning next month. Okay, and just a few more images from my superfood gallery. As you can tell, colors, textures are very, very important in all of this. We eat the colors, but the textures really make it such an absolute joy. And that's what we do. And of course, we're always educating. So in teaching the school, teaching the class that I teach, I show people how to set your kitchen up with the proper appliances and other type of things. So that is the Living Superfood Gallery. I'm going to stop sharing that document. And then we're going to go into one of my latest books. You had a question.
Do you have a champion juicer? I just had to ask that question.
I do have a champion juicer. My champion juicer is now a paperweight. A champion for many, many years, for decades, a champion was the state of the art.
Yes.
But those are the old style juicers, the grinding juicers. And the problem was with the grinding juicers is that they actually heat up the fibers as they're grinding the fibers and loosening the fluid, the liquid from the fruits and the vegetables and things. Now, the industry has pretty much moved to slow juicers, what are called masticating juicers.
Yes.
And these squeeze the juice out, and it's a much more efficient level. The juice doesn't heat up, and so it doesn't injure or destroy the enzymes, which are one of our primary tasks, one of our primary goals of having fresh juices as well. So I have my champion. I pulled it out. It's in excellent condition. You know, a champion is designed to last for 50 years. And now I have this big old heavy paperweight now. I really don't even want to move it to my new house. So somebody wants a champion, they can always contact me. You will pay the shipping, which would probably be almost as expensive as if you flew to Las Vegas and grabbed it yourself. So we're going to go in. I'm going to talk about this new book. As many of you know, I write. I love to write. I think books are really treasures. And I think that authors are living libraries. And I'm honored. I'm proud to be one. I created a book earlier this year called From Pen to Power, 90 Days to Write and Publish Your Book. And it was intended to come out with the class that I was teaching. The book was intended to come out on, would have been April 15th. The book turned out to be so good, so thorough, so exciting that the book finished itself in 25 days and told me, I got to go to the printer, just do another book. And so using that as a model, I was able to complete 6 brand new books for the year in the period of 90 days allotted for writing a book and getting it published, in addition to taking one book from 27 years ago and updating that and re-releasing that in a new format. One of the 2 books that I think are really a lifetime accomplishment for any author is I'm holding in my hand. I'm going to take you on a tour of this book.
Well, yeah.
This book is called Living Superfood, Life to the Max. And brother Imhotep, I take it you've been exposed to what's in this book a few times. Am I correct?
Yes, indeed. Yes,
that's
indeed.
right. Yeah. I'm going to share with you about a 2-3-minute introduction from the back of the book. And then we're going to open up the book and we're going to tour the pages somewhat, if you don't mind. Living Superfood, Life to the Max. We have laid out many distinct and insightful ideas throughout this book. I've included these themes because of my 40 plus years of research, advocacy, science background, and most of all, practical implementation. I only teach what I know, and I know what I teach. The Living Superfood lifestyle and nutrition regimen represents a paradigm shift in the life of the individual that can master these instructions and protocols. We are living in a very important era in the evolution of the human species and civilization. Something perilous and frightening is happening to the majority of people that inhabit many of the world's most prosperous societies. People are being captured wholesale by exploitive corporations that dominate the food supply system, as well as healthcare, regulatory agencies, the media, and advertising industries. Many of us have come to fundamentally distrust those profiteering entities when it comes to our personal well-being. There are many reasons that this trust should be withheld. We got to do better. We often heard it stated that, quote, those who fail to plan to fail. To counter that, we are firm to set our goals and achieve our goals with all determination. A statement that I frequently use is, the future belongs to those best prepared to create that future today. It's true that food is nature's most perfect medicine. Take that one to the bank. So, as always, I'll be open at any given time. If anybody has any comments or any questions, just speak up, or you raise your hand and Brother Imhotep will direct my attention to you. But if you don't mind, I'd like to share screen. I'm going to share screen one more time and take you into this beautiful book.
Please.
All right. And I'm so proud of this book. One of the things I'm very proud of about this book is that this book is one of the most stunning layouts, I think, of any book that I've ever done. So we're going to go here. We're going to share the screen. Tell me what you see. You should see the lions. Do you see the lions on the move?
Yes, yes.
Okay. And this is one of the memes that I particularly love. Until they meet the lion, the hyenas think they are the alphas. Let's go forward. The book has quite a bit to it. We do have table of contents. There's a total of 4 pages of table of contents. I'm just going to briefly skip through those. And then let's go to the book. And I need to upgrade the size of this page here. One second. Let me view whole page. Where are we at here? Bear with me. Oh, let me just move this to the other side. And it should not interrupt your ability to see the book. You see it just fine. Am I correct?
Yes. Just, can you make it just a little bit bigger?
I've got to make it a little bit bigger so I can read it. It's supposed to be a 1-page view. How does that? Does that look reasonable?
Yeah, it's reasonable, but I think, oh, there you go. That's really perfect. That's really.
All right. I appreciate that.
Really,
here we go. I like to introduce the chapters of my books with wise words for wise people. This one begins with Matt Mayberry's comment, achieving our goals and dreams is fantastic. But that's not the most important thing about setting goals. The most important thing is the type of person that we become along the way. It's not the just destination, it is the journey. And first, let me tell you a bit about my journey. I'm not going to spend too much time on the bio stuff. People always asking me, why don't you write a bio or a biography or memoirs? I say, if you buy enough of my books and read the introductions, you will have my life
Keidi,
story.
what happened?
Okay, I'm still here. I hope you can hear me just fine. Can anybody not hear me? Okay, everyone is muted. I cannot hear anyone.
Okay, now you kind of disappeared for a second.
Okay, let me.
You're fine now. You're fine.
Yeah, I'm hearing him fine.
Okay, all right. You let me know if you have any problem. Here we go. So, why I am furiously vegan, which is the title of a book that came out at the end of 2021. Furiously Vegan: 21 Steps to Restore Youthful Vitality. The future belongs to those best prepared to create that future today. This affirmation has been a significant meme and mantra to me at this phase of my life. I must admit and testify that at age 67 years young, I feel fantastic. I've learned over these decades to manage all aspects of my health and wellness. This regimen includes breathing techniques, nutrition, exercise, proper rest, cleansing my body, keeping hydrated, and managing stress to have a minimal impact on my life. Thus, the past, present, and future that I am living are all in sync with a lifelong master plan. The beautiful part is, as I mature and gain wisdom, I keep adjusting, refining, and improving upon this master plan for longevity and high performance for my body. I have passionately sought to teach what I am experiencing that I know to be positively impactful. I have been on this course since very early in life and can attribute what I've become to two brilliant parents, my father, a scientist, and my genius mother. Growing up in rural Ohio, I had the great opportunity to be influenced by two inspiring parents and the beautiful nature that comprised the environment and geography of my childhood. While much of my adult life has been spent in cities like Columbus, Atlanta, Seattle, Los Angeles, and Las Vegas, I am at heart a country boy. Nature is in my blood. I think all the country boys just testified on that one. Nature is in my blood, heart, deep conscious mind, and hopes and dreams for the future. I grew up loving to spend time in the woodlands surrounding our rural community and engaging in fishing, hiking, camping out, climbing trees, and working in our large family garden and orchard. So that's a bit of a background. And then, of course, I hope you see some of the parallels that I have and why one of my primary life influences is the great ancestral spirit of Dr. George Washington Carver. Praise be his eternal name. I'm going to turn a few pages here and we're going to get into a little bit deeper into the book. Not going to spend a whole lot of biography time. I do want to point out that I really look good in the photographs.
Go ahead, man.
So we begin with the instructions now. Now I am teaching. Chapter 1 is transform yourself, body, mind, and spirit. We begin with this beautiful quotation, inspiring quote from Buddha. To keep the body in good health is a duty. Otherwise, we shall not be able to keep our mind strong and clear. So what we're doing in this, and I'm going to be just briefly going through and picking parts of these, we are introducing to the larger public the class that I teach is the Living Superfood Certification. And this book really stems out of the certification. The certification, our first two classes were 12 weeks long, 4 hours per week. And we studied the whole spectrum of nutrition, functional medicine, holistic living, wellness, disease prevention, pathogenesis, the roots of cancer and cardiovascular diseases and other major diseases. It's a very intense. We're actually about to begin the next certification class. Before we finish today, I'm going to give out some contact information in case anybody wants to do what I do. If you do your studies, pass the class, I will give you a certificate saying you are trained in the Living Superfood System. Let's talk a bit more about what that system comprises. In 1948, the World Health Organization published a statement that fits the ideology of this book. They wrote, and I quote, "Health is a state of complete mental, social, and physical well-being, not merely the absence of disease or infirmity." That statement conforms to the strategic program that I have promoted for 3 decades. Although my concepts of these healthy states are not linked to common methodologies of modern conventional medicine, practices such as chemotherapies, prescription drugs, injections, removing body parts, expensive diagnostics, and the exorbitant costs associated with mainstream medical procedures. So the first thing we do, and whenever I'm working with a client, wherever we're teaching a class, rule number 1, day number 1, set and get your goals. Day number 1, what is it, Brother Imhotep? Set your goals.
Set your goals.
And get your goals.
Get your goals.
You know the statement, those who fail to plan to fail. Well, we're not going to be planning to fail, and we're going to set our goals. Another one of these beautiful quotes, Buddha steps right in and says, your work is to discover your work. And then with all of your heart, to give yourself to it. So this is planning. So I'm going to skip down to the middle of the paragraph. Toward the aim of correcting our bad health practices and creating a useful, vital life, for our enduring spirit, we need to adhere to a few useful rules. Set and get your goals. Number one, acknowledge that things got out of control over time. Thus, we will devote the time to get it right. Point, make an honest assessment of your health status. And that's very difficult to do. But nonetheless, that's how we proceed on firm footing. Point three, establish realistic goals of where you intend to be. Point, pick a reasonable date upon which you will have declared your first victory. Point, assemble the tools needed to facilitate your tasks. Engage in escalating set of actions that define progress toward your stated goals. Point, confirm that you've achieved the intended benefits, and then keep on stepping along this pathway. As often said, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step. I say a journey of 1,000 miles demands that we keep stepping, and as African people, stepping in rhythm, in a regular rhythm, and just moving through time, no matter what we strive and struggle against, keeping that rhythm, keeping that song, keeping that soul will get us to our destination. It is not the first step. The journey of 1,000 miles means I got some serious rhythm in my walking. And then we go forward. Let's talk about attitude. This attitude. Quoting from myself, I am in the optimistic expectation that I will harvest from the garden that I have carefully and dutifully sown. My prosperity is the seed, plant, flower, and fruit that I am committed to nurture. This is a great meme. And of course, I'm very inspired by this book. I live by this book. This book has been my life. And one of the things about this book, I hope you're seeing it, the book is full, is a high glossy, very colorful book. I break up the text and I make the ideas jump out at you. Really proud. I'm so very proud of this book. And it's not a small book. It's got some pages to it. Let's see if we can turn a few more pages. Again, welcome if anybody has any comments or any questions at any given time. This is very, 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 very important. As a scientist, we understand subjectivity and how subjectivity is necessary for societal cohesion, community cohesion. But when it comes to basic science, we try to be as objective as possible, meaning there's no gray area. If we can make things black and white, whereas the opposition to our health and wellness thrives off the gray area. Well, a little bit of that alcohol won't hurt you. Well, have a little bit more, and a little bit more, and a little bit more, until they have declared themselves to be liars, because another little bit finally made you pass out, and you drink a little bit beyond that, and your lungs stop working and you suffocate. So when we talk about this hierarchy of eating styles in the book, Living Superfood Research, came out in 2012, I evaluated how people commonly eat in the United States and other modern societies. I ranked these eating styles from the worst to the best. Most Americans eat very low on this hierarchy as their dominant dietary commitment. If you are concerned with your healthy nutrition outcome, I encourage you to find your ranking in this order. Find yourself on this list, everybody, and make a deliberate effort to raise your status to the highest level possible. Not necessarily just the next level, but that's a step on your 1,000-mile journey. From the worst to the best, the Western diet progresses from, number one, the worst, junk food. Number two, fast food, and that includes restaurants. Number three, the standard American diet. The acronym we know, SAD. It is indeed. Number four, the modified standard American diet. Modified meaning what? Oh, I don't eat like American. I don't eat pork. I eat everything else that Americans eat, but I don't do that one thing. That's the modified SAD. Number five on the list of 11 is vegetarian. Unfortunately, many vegetarians confuse eggs and cheese and fish with vegetables. I've been in gardens all my life. I've never seen a fish plant. Not in my gardens. Then there comes,
now, Keidi, so
yes,
why don't you explain 5 and 6? You know,
okay.
because I think that in maybe not in this audience, but you know, people that are going to see this, I think people are confused on those two.
Uh-huh. They are confused. Again, according to the way it's commonly spoken about in America, vegetarians are consuming dairy products, ice cream and milk and cheese. And vegetarians are also consuming hegs, which are Jamaican eggs, but they took the H off of herbs and now they put the herbs on the hegs in Jamaica. So to make matters crystal clear, eggs, dairy are not vegetables. Those are animal-based protein products to which our bodies have a natural allergic reaction that's called digestive leukocytosis. Leukocyte means a B cell, killer cell. It's to fight against pathogens and bacteria. And leukocyte is the B cell. Osis is a suffix, a condition. When we talk about digestive leukocytosis, it is an acute inflammatory condition for which most Americans in the standard American diet get sick 3 times a day. Digestive leukocytosis explains why, after a particularly taxing meal of crazy food combining a lot of heavy meal, you get the itis. Itis is a suffix that means inflammation. And when you get the flu or any other type of inflammation, your natural tendency is to sleep. That's why the itis knocks you out. That's digestive leukocytosis. And I encourage everyone.
So is that your body trying to heal itself when you do that? Is that what that?
Digestive leukocytosis is primarily when you eat too much, too crazy, too fast, and the natural enzymes have been either cooked out of your food by heating them up over 130 degrees, or that you eat too fast, you wolf the food down, and the amylase enzyme, which is naturally found in your saliva, doesn't get a chance to interact with the complex carbohydrates, the polysaccharides, complex carbohydrates, and start to pre-digest them before we swallow. This is why a good rule is chew your food a minimum of 32 to as many as 48 times, completely liquefy it before you swallow. Not only will you eat less, but you will get more absorbed nutrition by doing that, and you will avert your pancreas, which adds amylase to the foods in the stomach. The pancreas, if it says this is too much, I can't handle this, the pancreas naturally goes to the bone marrow and says, send me in some B cells, some killer cells, some leukocytes. The leukocytes come in and they have the enzymatic process to fracture the cells of the food that's flooding the stomach to store, to break down the proteins into the amino acids, which we need to process into the molecules we need. Now, that was a little bit complex, but I teach this. This is what I teach in my course so that every one of you should be able to explain when someone asks you, why are you complaining that I drink smoothies too fast? Well, now you'll be able to explain to them, you drink smoothies too fast or drink them with a straw, they bypass the tongue, there's no saliva, doubling the volume of the smoothie. And so therefore, a whole bunch of sugar goes into your stomach and your pancreas has to serve up the emergency squad, white blood cells to come in and break this food down. That's why you fall asleep.
So
that's the itis.
So when I go to, what's the place? And they give me the straw, I really shouldn't have the straw, you know.
I don't do smoothies with straws. I take straws out of all beverages that have natural sugar in them. You got to get your saliva. Yes.
We got a question, I think. Tandiwe, is that you? No.
Yeah.
Okay, and then Tandiwe and then Cedric. Go ahead. Go ahead, Tandiwe.
No, I was wondering if you were thinking about Jamba Juice. They sell smoothies. Is
I
that what you were saying?
I was trying to think of Jamba Juice. Yes, I was.
Yeah. And nearly all commercial beverage stores are really selling sugar, are really selling sweetness. They know the American public is sugar addicted to the max, and so they maximize exploitation. Don't get me started talking about Starbucks and these holiday seasonal coffees and other beverages they put out that have as much as 60 to 68 grams of sugar in some of them. It's obscene the way that people feed sugar addiction in this country. But you talked about the distinction. Now we get to vegan. Vegans
Keidi, Brother Cedric has his hand up. Go ahead, Brother Cedric.
Yeah, the question I have for you, you mentioned B cells. I'm familiar with red blood cells, white blood cells, B cells. Could you elaborate on that a little bit more?
Yes, well, white blood cells are a form of B cells, or I should say B cells are a form of white blood cells. There are three, at least three, there are more than three actually, different components of our body's immune system cells. Categorized all together, they're called white blood cells. But in the scientific community, they can be broken down into, I'll just explain three of them that I'm very familiar with. There are IgA, IgB, and IgG. These stand for immunoglobulin A using the Greek letter alphabet. Then there is immunoglobulin B and immunoglobulin G. The distinction is when you get an infection, the IgA immunoglobulin are the ones that send the signals back to the core of the immune system. We got a problem here. They're the primary sentinels. Then your body goes in and it rushes in the killer squad. Let's get rid of these things. And so then in come the IgB cells. And the IgB cells use a process called autophagy to break up and destroy these pathogens that are inhabiting the environment. And of course, your immune system needs to be strong to be able to completely do that and not lose ground to the point where the invaders now take over your body for an extended period of time, maybe even permanently. Then once the B cells have fought against and eliminated this threat, then the body creates IgG, immunoglobulin G, which comes in and now resides in the space in case these invaders come back again. IgG cells are residing in the space. Here's a problem, and I'm not going to go too deep into this, but this is a whole nother science that we really do need to understand, so therefore I will teach it. The problem is that we get so many different infections that the IgG cells have a tendency to overcrowd the environment. And once you have so many IgG cells, two things can happen. Number one, you can develop an autoimmune disorder, and that the IgG cells start mistaking, or it could be even the IgA, but they start mistaking the body's own cellular tissues as foreign invaders, especially when those tissues become compromised by foreign DNA. And every time we're eating animal protein products, we are consuming foreign DNA. And it does get incorporated into our bodies if our system does not completely break down the proteins into their constituent amino acids. And the second problem is that these IgG cells can build up to such a high level is that when you take a test for a bacteria or a virus or a pathogen for HIV or for COVID, these tests, the way they work by measuring specific protein weights, can cross-react. The higher the level of IgG cells in your body, the more they will cross-react. When I went to Uganda and I caught malaria, I went to the hospital, they tested me for COVID, and they said, you tested positive for COVID. I said to the doctor, but wait a minute. In the days of HIV and AIDS, isn't it true that many of the people who had malaria in Central Africa tested HIV positive? The doctor, she said, yes, that is true. And I said, well, they're using the same enzyme-linked immunosorbent assays, ELISA tests. They're using the same technology to test for COVID. So why do we now believe it? She ran out of the room and wouldn't come back into the room. She would only send other people in because I knew so much that she no longer had control over me. So many of these people who've been testing HIV positive and testing COVID positive had a condition, it's a 10-syllable word, called hypergammaglobulinemia. We talked about IgA, that's alpha globulin, IgB, beta globulin or B cells, killer cells, and IgG, gamma globulin. Listen to this 10-syllable word. Hyper, meaning too much, too fast.
Okay.
Gamma globulin, that's the sentinels that come in after the infection. Hyper gamma globulinemia, a suffix that means a condition. So I tell people, I've been telling people for 30 years, do not trust these ELISA-based blood protein assays. So that's enough of that. Vegan. Vegans espouse all animal proteins in the food. They don't look at animal proteins as food. Many vegans were ideological vegans for the animals, and so they don't even do leather and things like that. And that's I respect that position. And one of the key hallmarks about vegan and vegetarian is compared to standard and modified diets, they have very significantly lower rates of cancer diagnosis. This is very important. In ancient Egypt, the rate of cancer measured in the population can be best verified as 1 out of every 400 people at death had cancer. In 1900 in the United States, that had risen to 1 in 24. In the year 2000, 100 years later, it had risen to 1 in 6. By 2018, it had crossed 1 in 3. And as of today, the rate of cancer expected during our lifetime in the United States is 2 out of every 5 people, 40%. So cancer is a modern disease. It's a lifestyle and environmental disease. And this is one of the other things that I teach in my certification course. What causes cancer? What can prevent cancer? We've known about the prevention of cancer since Otto Warburg in the 1930s won 2 Nobel Prizes for defining what causes cancer. So why do the cancer industry still exploit the population as if they don't know what? They'll blame it on genes.
Now, was his findings, I remember Dr. Otto Warburg, was his findings about not enough oxygenation of the body?
Yes, it had to do with the cellular level. There are 2 means of creating energy in living creatures. The earliest creatures on the planet were single cells. They were anaerobic, not oxygen-dependent bacteria. These are called prokaryotes. Whereas the higher species, many higher species, including plant species, are oxygen-dependent, and these are called aerobic. The primary means of creating energy in human beings is a tiny little engine inside of every living cell called a mitochondria, which uses the glucose in our blood, combines that with the oxygen delivered to the cell, and the mitochondria then burns that glucose, producing energy in the form of adenosine triphosphate. I'll make this very brief. But if our bodies are deprived of oxygen on a cellular level, the cells may not die outright. They may mutate back to the old form from a eukaryote, oxygen dependent, to a prokaryote, which is anaerobic. And anaerobic prokaryotes, normally our immune system destroys those cells so they don't proliferate. But how does cancer get out of control is that these cells then are able to successfully reproduce themselves as prokaryotes and metastasize and take over the mass. This is why many practitioners say sugar feeds cancer, because it's the same anaerobic process used to make alcohol and other things. I could go on and on about that, but let's see if we can move faster through this. We're on this hierarchy. So here's the thing. Vegan and vegetarian have lesser rates of cancer. We have studies, and I cite the studies in the book, that show that in the studies of all groups and diets, even the so-called Mediterranean diet, vegan diet had the lowest incidence of cancer of all of them measured. But you know something? I've been a vegan for 30 plus years, vegetarian before that. And I know vegans that have died of cancer. I know vegans that have died of diabetes. And I know vegans that have died prematurely from cardiovascular disease. One of my dear friends, I'm not going to mention his name, you all know him, recently had a heart incident, was sent to the hospital, and it was bad. He had atherosclerosis and didn't know it. You would see him, you would say, this is the healthiest one among us. But the worst part about it was He submitted himself, this is a brilliant African scholar, submitted himself to the Western medical establishment as if there were no problem with that. And this is one of the faults, I will say, of our culturally conscious academic community. We're so brilliant when it comes to resisting their history, their culture, resisting their distortions of our story. But when we get sick, we run right to them as if we can trust them now. I'm not down with that. But here's what I say. I know vegans that are overweight. I know vegans that have immune disorders. Vegan is not strong enough now for the toxicity of this environment we live in. I'm going to repeat that statement. Vegan is not strong enough now for the toxicity of this environment. Now we go above vegan. 80-20 vegan. So now 80% of your food is raw and only 20% cooked. That's preserving the enzymes. That's going to increase the absorbability of nutrients, preserve the quality of nutrients, and many other things. So important. Above 80-20 vegan, now we're plant-based, raw. Plant-based raw. If you can go 90% plant-based raw and with as much organics as possible, you are doing very, very good. But there's more above that. The next level above that incorporates into your regular year-long diet seasonal detoxification that for me, 4 times a year, first day of spring, summer, autumn, winter, I take 28 days out and thoroughly go through and detox 9. Actually, I increase it to 11 different detox practices and systems. I describe all 11 of them in this book. Then above that, we're combining these things and we're adding in not just high quality vegan, mostly raw or all raw, we're adding in superfoods. Superfoods are those foods known to be able to contribute the highest level of the 8 different classes of nutrients necessary to maintain life. All 8 of them, superfoods do the best in the most deliverable, absorbable method possible. Those are the superfoods. And in the book, we list a lot of the top superfoods and some of the popular superfoods, anything from blueberries to sea vegetables to, most people don't accept it, but the science is there, is that soy is actually a superfood. And we have been hearing this instruction from a lot of people that soy and soybeans are bad for us. I would dare say, look at Dr. George Washington Carver's research on the soybean and soy products. Most people don't know. Much of what is in the field of soy nowadays is directly Dr. Washington Carver, George Washington Carver's research. And I'm a Carverite, beyond a shadow of a doubt. So
Brother
we've
Keidi,
gotten to level 10 of 11.
I know you want to get through this list, but we have another question for Brother Cedric.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, brother.
Yeah, real quick, like, do sea moss, do that make your list of superfoods?
One of the most powerful superfoods known to humankind is sea moss. There are many different varieties. I think there's up to 200 or maybe as much as 400 different varieties of sea moss that are out there. Sea vegetables like sea moss, spirulina, super blue-green algae, these comprise amongst the absolute highest class of superfoods. So sea moss always gets 2 black fists in the air. They say 2 thumbs up, but I say 2 black fists in the air. Good question, Brother Cedric. And in the islands, many times, if a woman cannot breastfeed her baby, they don't go to Nestle's and look for some stuff in a box and feed that to their babies. They go to sea moss and use that as the base and add certain substances, and that gives their baby the entire spectrum of amino acids necessary for cellular construction. It's in the sea moss. That's a great question. Thank you for reminding. And then last on the list of 1 through 11, the highest of the highest is called orthomolecular medicine. Now, this is a branch of functional medicine. Ortho is a Greek word, means correct. Molecule is, of course, the smallest ingredients that our body constructs around as a life process. So orthomolecular medicine, meaning our nutrition is perfectly suited for surviving and thriving of our cells. So going forward, now that we have that, does everybody see yourself on that list? Anybody want to be brave enough to identify where you are on that list?
You know, I don't see a pescatarian on here.
The pescatarian is a
That's-
modified sad.
That's where I'm. Oh, okay. So that's a modified set. Okay.
Yeah, pescatarian is a modified sad. And I guess I could put that in that list, but
No,
it's not a vegetable.
that's good. That's good.
Okay. Anybody else want to put up? Because a lot of us, I think, have a tendency once we start to realize this list, and there's a whole chapter in Living Superfood Research on the distinction of this list. Every one of these things is listed. I go through the pizzas and the French fries and the burgers and the dogs and the sodas, and we put all these in detail. But here, I don't like to repeat myself too much, but it's a very important overview.
So Keidi, we have a hand up from Sharon Glover. Go ahead, Sharon.
Yeah, I'm a modified sad too. I thought I was doing good, but I guess I'm not.
You're doing better than the average American, who is doing worse of all of the most developed nations.
Well, does that modified sad include, I only eat fish, I don't eat beef or pork or chicken?
That's a modified standard American diet.
Oh,
Do you
okay.
eat pasta and bread?
No,
Okay, yeah.
just vegetables and seafood.
Vegetables and seafood.
Actually, it's just salmon. That's the only thing I eat. Vegetables and salmon.
All right. I'm not going to go too deep into it right now. I do have a book out called Transforming Soul Food for the Body, Mind, and Spirit. And I take the top 20 most popular soul food dishes and I break them down for their ingredients. And I'll be honest with you, I'm pretty hard on fish and seafood.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty hard on it.
Because of the mercury, and you don't know where the source is, where it comes
Well,
from.
and there's also another protein, and I was just looking at this yesterday, and I made some notes. I saved the document. I don't have time to look for that right now. I don't want to crash my Zoom.
Oh, okay.
But there's a protein that is common in red meat, in beef, and pork, and poultry, in eggs, and it's common in fish. And this protein is, the body does not like it. And it raises the risk of cancer and other mutancy on a cellular level. If I didn't have all these things running simultaneously, I would pull that up, but it has a tendency to crash things when I do that. And I'm
gonna buy your book.
Good. And I do mention that protein in this book or actually in my other book, which I have right here. This is another brand new one now. These two books came out within a month of each other. And believe it or not, the books are substantive. They're not just little dibby books. This one called 100 Plus Lifespan is where I mentioned that particular protein. And maybe I'll find it in the course of this, but maybe I don't have time to look for that. But this protein is common across the entire meat spectrum. And when it comes down to it, name one other animal that consumes meat, and that would include fish, that if they don't cook that meat at a certain temperature, the meat could kill them. Name one other meat-eating animal.
Well, that's a good question. We have
Pigs.
we have another hand up from Minister Rana. I'm sorry, Sister Sharon. Were you?
No, I'm done. He was saying name one of the animal, but I couldn't think of the animal.
It's
Yeah,
hard.
I can't think of any either. We know some people like to eat raw meat and burgers and stuff, but maybe those are animals. I don't know. If we have time for all of that. So we had another question or comment from somebody.
Minister Rana, go ahead.
All right. We'd love these questions. Go ahead.
Hello, Hatap. I just thought it was hilarious I just pictured like animals sitting around the barbecue cooking their food till it got to a temperature that they could eat it.
Or can you imagine the lion or the cheetah chasing down an antelope, and before it bites the throat of that antelope to choke it out and bleed it out, it says, "Hold still. Let me put some alcohol scrub on your neck so the bacteria don't kill me."
Right. I just had a lot of funny things go through my mind when you said that. But, my question was, when you mentioned the soy, I grew up with the notion that soy was a product that was created, kind of like how some other foods were created after a wartime as a survival type food. And with the understanding that for the most part, all of those foods that were created for that reason, once that reason was passed, then it wouldn't be in good health to continue to consume them. So again, not to say that that isn't totally wrong, but did you reference an article specifically that would be a good place to look or read about soy, to learn more about soy products?
This is going to be easy. Put up a high quality search engine, and Google is not a high quality search engine. Google is falling off the map, if you ask me, because it's all about who's spending money on advertising. That's what we're going to sell the public. I
Yes.
like Brave. Brave has a browser. Brave also has a search engine. It's very high quality, and you're going to definitely do the same search on Google and Brave, and you'll see why I switched. And just type in George Washington Carver, capital A-N-D, which ties two sides of what's on that, each side of that N, and the word soy research.
Okay. Okay.
And
Great.
do your research. Dr. George Washington Carver, much of what we see in the soy industry as a protein that's so widely dispersed is directly the result of Dr. Carver's work. The problem is in the aftermath of Dr. Carver's work and his genius, the soy industry was taken over by Monsanto.
Uh-oh.
The
Yes.
soy industry, soybean growth was taken over by Monsanto, taking over the seeds and producing the modified soy that tolerates high levels of the weed killer that contains glyphosate, Roundup containing glyphosate. People talk about, well, soy messes up your estrogen and all this and that. Well, look at soy in world history, 2,000-year record. They talk about soy makes a man turn into a woman. Well, look at a planet full of 1,600,000,000 Chinese people and tell me, are they
Yes.
infertile?
Yes. Yes.
And if you look at the rates of cancer in the societies that have consumed soybeans for 2,000 years, their rates of cancer are much less than the United States. What's the difference in the United States? Is the soybeans are genetically engineered to tolerate high levels of pesticides. And the pesticides cause cancer.
Whoa.
So may I ask then, and I will look into this further, but may I ask then, with that in mind, and considering that we've gotten into such a horrible place with the Santos and not even being able to grow crops if they are going to in any way affect his GMO crops and all of this, do we have products or brands that we can look to that are still good crops, good seed, what have you, with regard to soy?
Yeah, but we got to work for it. It's not
Yeah.
real convenient. It can be more expensive. When I use tofu, and I like tofu, I like working with
Yeah.
tofu. It's very versatile. I only buy organic, non-GMO tofu. And if it's been sprouted already, I get at Trader Joe's, sprouted organic tofu, I like it. And I don't consume it any more than maybe 2 or 3 days a month, but it doesn't turn me into a female. In fact, well, you don't want to know.
Okay, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great questions, everybody. I really appreciate speaking with this community. Can I pick it up and we're going to
Please,
go through
go ahead.
a few of these challenges here? We talk about the chronic challenges that affect people. Overweight and it's linked to chronic disease. And overweight in the Black community is an epidemic level. In the United States, it's a pandemic level. In the modern societies, it's a bad level. And in the developing societies, as they move towards middle class, they get worse and worse problems with the population, not just overeating, because I have a tendency to overeat, but I'm highly energized. And also I have several bowel movements, so the excess just moves right out. But now we're seeing in the African societies, the wealthier class are becoming more overweight and obese with each passing decade. So if we don't export our solutions, they will inherit our problems. So we looked at overweight and obese. All causes of death are affected by overweight and obesity. Cardiovascular diseases, such as atherosclerosis, plaque buildup in the arteries, a precursor to other disorders. Obesity is linked to increased heart rate, coronary heart disease and hypertension, stroke, cerebral embolism, pulmonary embolism, angina, chest pain, cancers and other diseases of the endometrium, breast, colon, kidney, gallbladder, uterus, prostate and cancer, and liver. And look at all that. Look at that long, long list of over 40 different chronic diseases common in this society that are associated with the status of overweight and obesity. There is a terrible crisis. It's a crisis that we're going to have to come to terms with as Black people in America. And please, 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 I would ask everybody, discard that mythology of I have this weight because I'm big boned. Because when they examine your bones after you pass, they say your bones are the normal size bones of other people, but your vertebra may have been compressed and your joints compressed because you were trying to pack too much weight on your frame. Big boned is a mythology.
Brother Keidi, Chef Keidi, we have a question from Sister Zarita. Go ahead, Sister Zarita.
Greetings, beloved.
Thank you. Can
Yeah, try again.
you hear me? Hello?
Yeah, go ahead. Uh-oh.
If she turns her camera off, I maybe get better audio.
Thank you.
Zarita, we're going to ask you to, as Keidi said, turn your camera off and
Can you go again? Information about publishing.
yeah, it's not really. It's not really coming in clear, Zarita. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's a bad connection.
Yeah, Keidi, why don't you continue, and we'll see if Sister Zarita can ask her question a little later. We have about 28 minutes. We have a hard stop at 6:30 because wow, Women of Welsay are meeting at 6:30.
Wow.
Right.
All right. One of the things that we can do to set ourselves straight is to learn to weigh ourselves every day. A lot of people avoid the scale. I talk to my clients about this constantly. Oh, I don't want to be in a scale. I don't know how much I weigh. I say it's one of the non-intrusive methodologies you have of gauging your health and your weight every day. I look forward to getting on the scale every morning at the exact same time, because the scale either gives me a wonderful compliment, says, brother, you are 7 years older than you were at age 25, or the scale will tell me you did something in the last day or two that didn't set right in your body's massing immune complex, mucus, because most fast weight is mucus. So therefore, weigh yourself regularly and gauge your body mass index. And I told you I photograph well. This is a very recent photograph. And at the time, well, I trust it's not difficult for you to understand the importance of gauging your body mass index. For me, it is paramount. Throughout this book, I trust that you will gather that I am one of the healthiest senior citizens alive. I am proud of this status and work throughout the day to reinforce my vitality status. The following is the BMI reading that the day's BMI reading that measures my body this morning. And at age 67 years young, 5 foot 8.5 inches tall, my weight that day was 149.6, which was 4.6 pounds heavier than I weighed 42 years ago. And again, everybody remember, on average, the average American gains and retains 1 pound per year from their optimal weight, which is usually between 21 and 28 years of age. So I just say, what did you weigh at 25 years old? That should be a perfect lifetime weight for you. Unfortunately, as the generations pass, we're seeing more overweight and obesity even at that young age. And so my body mass index, if you look at the green zone, my BMI at 22.4 is almost perfect. If I weigh 145, it is perfect. So based upon this, when I'm talking to clients, I can almost predict and tell them how much you weighed when you were 25 years old, because in the background, I put them in the middle of the green zone. All I got to know is their height, and I can tell them how much they weighed when they were at their peak adult health. This is very important.
How about 6'5" and 3/4?
Okay, let me see. Do I have my phone handy? I think I put my phone. Oh, here it is. Let me give you your BMI.
Okay.
Again, tell me your age.
I'm 65.
65 years young or 65 years old?
Well, it's kind of
It depends on the day.
that's
Okay, and you say you are 6 foot even or 6'1"?
I am six. My wife just says tell people 6'6", but it's 6'5 3/4".
Oh, 6'5.75". Okay, good job. So, and your weight in pounds, kilograms, or stones?
Right now,
Yes,
225.
225. That puts you at a body mass index of 26.1, which is 1.1 into overweight. Do you recall how much you weighed when you were 25 years old?
Yeah, I was like about 185.
I was about to say exactly 185. I put in 185 and your body mass index is slightly under perfect, which
Yeah.
you were you were athletic at the time, probably a runner, right?
I was a sprinter.
How did I know that? It's because I know the body. I know what this BMI means. And congratulations. Now you are from 185. You say you're now 225. That means you are 30 pounds, 40 pounds over an ideal weight.
Yeah.
And then the program begins. Should you choose to want to spend your senior years at a perfect weight for your height, then you want to go on a program that will take off. You can probably take off up to 14% of your body weight in the first 30 days, and then just take it off gradually and maintain it at that lower weight. This is why I do seasonal detoxing. I do it every 3 months. I go on 28-day cleanse.
Well, you know what? So I went on that Dr. Sebi diet 10 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
and I went down to 185 in like a month.
Good.
Like a month and a half. And then, okay, that was 10 years ago. Now I've kind of.
Well, how did you feel at the end of that process?
I felt great. I felt great.
Did you feel invincible?
I feel invincible. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, I did. I felt great.
That's right. That's how we want to feel when we're senior citizens, invincible. Hey, I'm proud to say I did my first set of push-ups today, Brother Imhotep. You know me and my push-ups. The first set today was 265. I wanted to do more than that, but my body said, nah, that's all right.
You know what, Keidi, you're inspiration for us all. Wow.
That's right.
Yes. I have a question.
Sister Judy has a question. Go ahead.
Greetings,
Yes,
beloved.
I apologize. I'm driving and I'm trying to find the hand raiser. But I just wanted to thank you so much, Keidi, for always coming and bringing such great information. It's just amazing. My question was I had two quick questions. One, what about ginseng? What are some of the natural some of the herbs and things that you can use or you recommend? Back in the day, I used to do a lot of little ginseng tea packets, and I felt it was kind of like I'm sure maybe a placebo, but I felt like I was on a natural high every time I had my little cup of ginseng. And so are there things that can give you a natural high,
Oh,
energize you other
absolutely.
than caffeine? Because I use caffeine now.
Well, it's all about energy creation, and energy creation is constant. It can be less efficient because of the ways we're trying to turn things that are not necessarily nutrition into energy. But ginseng is powerful. There are 3 different types of ginseng: American ginseng, Panax ginseng, and Siberian ginseng, which is also called Arctic root. And all 3 of them are classified as superfoods. I have one book out. The book is called Living Superfood Longevity, of which the new book, 100 Plus Lifespan, is an update of that, but I don't overlap. And in Living Superfood Longevity, I overlap to a minimum, but there's a chapter 14 called My Arsenal of Anti-Aging Supplements. and mine is up to about 43, but I've recently increased them with a bunch of African herbal compounds that I'm now testing out for one of my comrades who owns the company developing these compounds. I'm testing them out and giving a testimony on the benefits of her products, and they're spectacular products. Even after just 1 or 2 days of testing them, I can already feel my body is adapting to these traditional African medicines. So ginseng is awesome. You have your Korean ginseng, which tends to be the strand called American ginseng, but there's Panax, which is also can be found in Asia as well. And then there's the Russian or Siberian ginseng, which is, I believe it's also called Arctic root. All of them are great. And anything other than coffee is good for energy creation. Coffee is one of the worst because it is a known carcinogen.
Wow.
Oh,
Darn, I'm
wow.
gonna have to throw away my
Didn't know
Starbucks
that.
cup, my
Oh,
card.
throw away Starbucks card. Starbucks is a sugar delivery corporation. They're not even a coffee shop. They're just selling sugar.
But I only drink the espressos. But my other quick question was, what about cleansers? What are some of the best ways? What are some of the best cleansing substances or cleansers?
Well,
That's a big question, I guess.
it's a huge question, and much of it is dependent upon what type of cleansing is needed. For my system, there are 11 stages of cleansing. Just real briefly, I began first with initiation, which I will do anywhere from a minimum of 3 to as much as 10 days of water only to thoroughly reset my body. Just go back to water only. And then I do the colon cleansing. I can combine the colon cleansing, which uses herbal substances like Cascara Sagrada or CKLS. You can use a parasite cleanse at the same time you're colon cleansing. And then I do a chelation therapy where you're removing heavy metals, mercury, lead, cadmium, excessive iron, arsenic. You're removing these heavy metals using chelation therapy. I'll combine sodium dicalcium, EDTA, along with bentonite clay, and these different substances. In the book, Living Superfood Research, and in the new book, Living Superfood Life to the Max, I've updated my cleansing protocol now to include another one, which is a facial mask cleanse. Yes, men do facial mask cleansing. Mine is a combination of aloe vera from my garden, along with cider vinegar and some flaxseed oil and bentonite clay. Mix those together, put those on as a clay mask. I'll do that once about every 4 days. And I look so pretty that sometimes I just got to get really close to the camera.
Wow. You got to work on that self-esteem, Keidi. It's just wow.
Yeah, you're a little
Poor
too
thing.
shy. Yeah. Hey, listen, we have a question from Minister Rana. Thank you, Sister Judy. Go ahead. Minister Rana.
Sorry, I'm coming. I'm cooking. I was cooking and everything. Yeah, so I had a question. Do you have any thoughts about chicory for those who are trying to look at coffee alternatives, but still like that taste of something dark and rich?
I have a friend who's a big fan of chicory, has
Yeah.
been using chicory for a number of years.
Yes.
I introduced her to roasted barley tea, and she gave up the chicory. Roasted barley tea is popular in Asian cultures, especially Korean cultures. I
Yes.
love shopping at Korean grocery stores. They have great prices and they're very clean and a wonderful variety or variety of products. I think that roasted barley tea, it can be served cold or it can be sold hot. I think it is the perfect substitute for coffee. And one of the benefits about it is that it builds strong bone material. They even give roasted barley tea to the children.
I agree with you on the roasted barley tea. I had it a long time ago, but I was definitely not as far in my willingness as I am now to accept that as a substitute. So I'll have to try it again because it's been several years. And I remember it not being bad. I just remember
the aroma is awesome.
Yeah,
Isn't it? When you're making that, you walk in the room. It's
Yes.
like coffee aroma.
Yes, and I also agree about the Korean grocery stores. Unfortunately, we don't have more African grocery stores in our communities, but the Korean grocery stores are very clean, have lots of good and unusual vegetables for people to try who are looking at adding more vegetables into your life, but you kind of maybe have gotten tired of the same old thing, especially for those of us who are in the 50 plus group, you get tired of the same things. There's some nice varieties there to try as well. Thank you.
You've got a great attitude. And also their selection of sea vegetables is spectacular.
Yes, yes, yes.
And sea vegetables, all of us should incorporate sea vegetables into our regular dietary nutritional pattern. The fact of the matter is, the longest living people on the planet eat the highest amount of sea vegetables.
May I ask one more question just before I go? And that is, do you have any thoughts on kimchi, which I eat like a crazy person?
No, you eat like a brilliant person, like a genius person. My only concern about kimchi is look at the label closely. Sometimes they try and sneak the scrimps in it.
Yes,
and
yes,
modern day scrimps, much of it, or shrimp, as most normal people talk about it, much of them are harvested in Vietnam, and they use the local water to make the ice, which the scrimps are shipped. And quite simply, I write about that in the book, Transforming Soul Food, why sea vegetables are so dangerous. Much of the salmon that's consumed nowadays is farm-raised salmon. And the farm-raised salmon, they have to use pesticides. Otherwise, they get these little black sea lice on them and people won't want to eat them. The other problem with the wild-caught Pacific salmon, which everybody says is the highest quality, is called Fukushima, the nuclear plant in Japan that spewed 400 tons of radiation into the ocean over the course of 5 years. The United States National Atmospheric and Oceanic Organization, national agency, put out a map of the dispersion of the Fukushima radiation across the Pacific, and they found the radiation in the body tissues of the salmon in Alaska, and they found it in the sea otters swimming off the California coast. Unfortunately, Fukushima contaminated the entirety of the Pacific Rim.
I was wondering why I glowed in the dark. All right. We have about 13 minutes left. I guess the thing, we just need to get this book to the max, because we're not able to allow Chef Keidi to go completely. But great questions. We have 13 minutes left, and what a great crowd here. Minister Alicia's with us. Cedric, great questions. Brother Katabasi, you always have some great questions. I know you have something.
He always has great questions. Don't let him rest.
Yeah, that's I know.
No, it's a fairly simple question, but it was something that I was wondering about as you were discussing the fact that you had, vegan friends that had heart attacks and had other problems, the most commonly associated with meat-eating people, and so I was wondering if there's any genetic linkage in any of these.
That's a great question. Yes, there is always a genetic linkage, because we have the genes of human beings. We do not have the genes of polar bears. The largest land mammal, a vegetarian, is the African elephant. The largest land mammal carnivore is the polar bear. So we're comparing species kind of in the same general class. You don't want to compare an elephant to a mouse, but we compare them. The life expectancy of that elephant is 325% that of the polar bear. So there's something in the elephant's genes that would dictate that the elephant be a strict vegetarian. That's easy to understand.
Yeah.
And when we compare similar species all across the board, we see the same thing. The longest living reptile is the Galapagos sea tortoise, 157-year life expectancy. While the African crocodile can live to be 100 years, that's impressive. but compared to his cousin, the sea tortoise, it's not necessarily so impressive. If we compare similar species in the same environment, the African gray parrot compared to the African vulture. The vulture consumes not only flesh, but rotting flesh, whereas the gray parrot is a strict vegan vegetarian. The life expectancy of that gray parrot is something like 5 or 100%. It's a huge differential
Wow. Yeah.
between that and its almost genetic cousin. So
yeah, those are strong indicators and arguments. I would
it
think.
goes across the board. We can even look at primates in a captive species. Sometimes, chimps in the wild, especially when they're extremely stressed, they will eat other chimps' babies. And now somebody will step and say, well, what? We're primates. Chimpanzees are primates. Well, chimps eat meat. And I say, well, chimps will eat the babies of their rivals. Are you comparing yourself to a chimpanzee? Sound like a European. You will eat the babies of your rivals. Don't get me started now.
Okay, yes.
Thanks, Keidi. That was a good explanation.
Yeah, so the science is there. I do include the comparative information across these species, and it's always consistent. Vegetarians and vegans live longer and much lower rates of certain cancers.
All right. Brother Henry, I know you have a question. I know you just look like you do. Maybe I'm just reading it wrong. No, you don't have one. All right.
Henry's
I
ordering
have
the book
another
right now.
question.
Yes.
Go ahead, Judy. Go ahead.
Okay. So Keidi, why don't we hear much anymore? At least I don't hear much anymore about ginseng. But what are some other stimulants? What are some other good? Because I love my coffee because I drink it. As soon as I drink it, I'm on cloud 9. I can feel, I just feel super happy, super exuberant, and the energy level is high. But what are some other specific?
And that's
You mentioned
that's a false energy. I want you to be clear. That's a false energy, and nothing from nothing leaves nothing. Nature,
well,
we
I'm
do not
sure
like to
I'm just.
fool with Mother Nature. You'd be better
But
off
you know what?
creating.
I'm an energetic person anyway. I'm highly energized, so I'm sure it's more than. I mean, I've always been a hyper person. So, but what would you recommend as other stimulants, natural stimulants, or herbs or things that you could take that will, that give you something other than the things that other people do to try to get stimulated. Natural highs.
For me, it's called full spectrum hypernutrition. Just give
Call
my
it.
body everything it needs to, especially the enzymes, to convert nutrition into the energy necessary, as well as convert it into the molecules for us to rebuild cells of all types throughout the body. I don't believe in the concept of stimulating beverages. They have all of these energy drinks that have entered the market over the last 20 or so years. I drank exactly half an ounce of those in 20 years. And when I put that in my mouth, I said, this is absolutely disgusting. It's like I'm just drinking chemicals. And look at the life of Kevin Samuels. Those of you familiar with the relationship counselor and popular YouTuber, you saw what he drank. Every time he was on that program, he only drank one drink, and that was Red Bull. And this man dies at age 57 or 58.
Are you talking about the guy that just committed suicide?
No, Kevin Samuel was a popular relationship critique. Well, he called it relationship critiquing. He was also an image consultant as well. Many Black women took it as women bashing. Many Black men said, well, thank you, Kevin, because I haven't been able to be that honest with the women around me without them wanting to strangle me. I'm kind of neutral. I think Kevin Samuels did make a contribution, but he was rather insensitive in the way that he was coaching people. And then, of course, he always said, well, I'll coach you properly if you pay me money. I understand why he made that statement too.
Oh, dear.
Right. He talked about high level men or something, high level women. Yeah.
And we all should be talking about high level men and women because that's who we are.
Right.
Certainly on this channel.
That's right.
Right here. All these people that I'm looking at now. We
That's
have
right.
6 minutes left. Any other questions for Chef Keidi? Keidi,
And if you don't mind, I'm going to type into the chat where anybody who want to find my books. I have 49 books have now been published. There are 50 of them listed at Amazon. They've one other author included me as a co-writer there. And I have 2 new books coming very, very soon. One is called, it's in a series now. This will be the 3rd book in the series called Living Superfood Solutions. This next one is called Miracle on 2 Feet. And I think I can show you the cover, Miracle on 2 Feet. It's about stroke prevention and recovery. Do I have this one up? And I have a number of other books. I'll just show you. This is another one. It's a health book, but it's about development, sustainable development, forged by fire, post-COVID African healthcare and sovereign development. This is my response to Klaus Schwab's book, The Great Reset. We have this book as a male rites of passage program that we put together not too long ago called Big Up Manhood. You know about this one, Brother Minister Imhotep.
yes,
Rites of passage to reclaim masculinity and restore biointegrity. If the men don't have their testosterone balanced and functioning in their body, he's going to be missing in action for the critical things necessary for developing the community. A couple of other books. I did sneak in a couple of books written by artificial intelligence. One of them called AI Has a God Complex. It actually turned out much better than what I'd imagined. You know about this book, which is teaching you to write your book in 90 days and get it to publish. The class begins next week on Monday. So anybody want to get your book going to the printer on August 15, join the class. It's not too late. I'm going to give the WOSA community the early bird price. And of course, we had mentioned about the book 100 plus lifespan. This is a must for every one of us who plan to live long and be prospering. And lastly, I'm just going to show you one more book because I really didn't emphasize it today, but the food is so very critically necessary. This is my 3rd volume of living superfood recipes. And these are all very, very critical toward living the life that we would live to live as long and prospering as we possibly could. And I'm going to type in where you can get my books. You can get them at the major booksellers, but also go to my site and get the books at http, excuse me, I'm typing fast, keidi.biz/CRP Conscious Rush Suppressed 2012.
right, there it is.
Wow, Keidi Awadu, the super being.
We
You
are
are
trying to
awesome.
live superlative. That's who we are.
Yes, indeed.
Wow.
Keidi, I just want to say we have like 2 minutes left. I just want to thank you. You know, I'm glad because you did a program with us. It was about a couple of years ago, and you've joined us a lot. You know, during our classes. I know you have things that you're going on, and you can't necessarily stay with us through the whole time. But this has been a tremendous class and session, and I think everybody has benefited from it. I'm glad you put your information in the chat. Also, for those of you that are using the chat, I put the 2 flyers for our classes for next week. So next week it's close to Malcolm's birthday. Malcolm's birthday is actually May 19th, and we're going to be discussing Malcolm X. So bring your Malcolm X stories, questions, and we're going to be focusing on Malcolm. And then the following week, we're going to be looking at the Tuskegee Airmen.